registrar, and probably some of you already know this nice lady, but the ones of you that don't know her name is Bobbie Lovell, and she's going to be talking about the Lemons Hollow today and sharing some good information about the area.
Okay, how many people know where the Lemons Hollow is? Anybody? Okay, Rick, you don't know where the Lemons Hollow is, do you? Did I take you there? Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. I was born in the Lemons Hollow. My daddy was born in the Lemons Hollow 22 years before I was in the same house that my daddy was born in. My grandpa and grandma were James and Elizabeth Lemons, but the neighbors all called them Uncle Jim and Aunt Lizzie Lemons. So the hollow that they lived in became the Lemons Hollow. I'll tell you this right here first. Our family tree isn't like some others, not straight and true like some would claim. Its branches fork out in many directions, but its root system is not to blame. Its root system is strong and sturdy, able to hold the load it bears. Its trunk has weathered many storms that added stress as it towers. Our family tree is lofty and strong. Its branches have many scars and cuts. Still, it's produced fine fruits in great abundance, but it's also produced a lot of nuts. And Cousin Jack didn't come.
For those that don't know, where is the Lemon Hollow?
Okay, Shady Grove. Does anybody know where the Shady Grove Church is? If you go up the hill beside of Shady Grove Church and down the foot of the hill, that's the Lemons Hollow on Birds Creek.
Gotcha.
Like I said, I was born in the same house that my daddy had been born in 22 years earlier. I was born on June the 25th of 1942, and Daddy went into the war in September after I was born, and he was gone for 3 years, 1 month, 1 week, and 1 day before he saw me again. I lived with Grandma and Grandpa and my mother. My grandpa hunted, fished, raised garden. He was an excellent carpenter. He made my baby bed and he made my chair, and I still have those. I have the walking stick that he made, that he carved a man's head at the top. Grandma was of the A and B, Grandma was the A and Grandpa was the B. Grandpa met my grandma when she was 14 years old. So I have a poem about, I lived with them, and I felt like that of all of his grandchildren, Grandpa loved me the best. Grandpa loved me best, I'm sure. At least that's how it seemed to me. He made my little wooden swing and hung it from his apple tree. I swung nearly to the sky and sang as loud as can be, "Swing low, sweet chariot, a band of angels coming after me." Grandpa carried me to his vineyard to pick the grapes right off the vine. So sweet and juicy they spilled from my chin. No other grapes ever tasted so fine. With his pocket knife, he peeled apples he had picked from his orchard tree. It seemed he always found the finest treasures, and of course he gave them all to me, like mouse's ear berries that came from the mountain that surrounded our little home, as did hickory nuts, hazelnuts, and trillium, lady slippers, and honeybee comb, foam flowers, flint rocks, quartz, and mountain tea. Their origin was never vague, but the most special of all his gifts was a Cupid doll with a broken leg. My grandpa was gone before I was grown, before I had treasures with him to share, but I like to think somehow Grandpa must have known one day I'd give him a granddaughter with strawberry hair. Grandpa thought that my grandma was the prettiest woman he'd ever seen. So one day, I asked him about meeting Grandma, and this is it. One morning as a little girl, I climbed up on my grandpa's knee. Tell me the first time you saw Grandma. Tell that story again to me. Well, first time I met your grandma, I was visiting their church with her brother. I saw her sitting on one side of the room, but I was sitting on the other. Golden red hair shone in the morning sun. I looked at her, but she looked away. After that, I found it difficult to listen to what that preacher had to say. I kept glancing back across the room of the little church that day, peeping through my lashes as we bowed our heads to pray. Finally, I caught her eye, but she looked quickly away. It's been over 50 years now, but I still remember that day. Like me, her looks have faded some, was as pretty a girl as I ever saw. And sitting here in the morning sun, you look a lot like your grandma. I treasure that. Grandma always sang. She sang the notes first. She sang Old Harp every morning when she was cooking breakfast. She'd sing the notes first. They're going to have an Old Harp singing here sometime this week. But they sang the notes first and then the poetry. And I listened to that. So I grew up thinking that you sang do, do, so, do, me, so when you sang how tedious and tasteless the hour. I learned that just as a little girl. When I was a little bit bigger, Grandpa was old. He was getting old. But like I said, he loved Grandma, and he just thought she was wonderful. So we'd go pick them up on the way to church, and they'd get in the back seat and sit with me. So this is the story about that. We drove to her house on Sunday morning, Mother, Daddy, and me. Grandpa and Grandma would come to the car and sit in the back seat with me, to ride to the little white church up the road and greet those gathered there with hugs, smiles, and handshakes for a time with them to share. Grandpa sat in the amen corner, but Grandma sat by me. Grandpa's shirt blue like his eyes and ironed to a shiny blue sheen. Grandma wore a Sunday dress, her snowy white hair in a bun. The brooch on her lapel glistened in the morning sun. After the service was over and hymns of praise were sung, we traveled back to Grandma's house for an afternoon of fun. Along the way, she hummed a song, softly, but I could hear how sweet the name of Jesus sounds in a believer's ear. At Grandma's house, dinner was served, Grandpa at the head of the table, Grandma at his right side, and the rest of us as close as we were able. Fried chicken, gravy, green beans, and corn. Sorry, David, he's hungry. a jar of homemade pickled beets, a bowl heaped with buttered potatoes, and a selection of something sweet. After the dinner dishes were washed and the leftovers put away, all of us kids gathered outside choosing teams so we could play. Gwen, Mary Lou, Jack, and me, Connie and little Bernice, played Annie over the kitchen roof or a game of hide and seek. A drink from the water bucket carried from the well, cool and refreshing to be able to sip from the dipper that hung from a nail. The grown-ups went to the front porch, some sat in the swing, others in straight chairs and rockers to share stories and laugh and sing. Sundays at Grandma's linger sweetly in my heart, simple times with family I loved, memories so we're never apart. Grandma and Grandpa had 12 children. 10 of them grew to be strong men and women. My daddy was the youngest son, and his oldest brother was Wiley. And Wiley was my favorite uncle. He he was terrific. And after I was a grown woman, I'd follow him. He liked to hike to Dudley Mountain, and I'd go with him. I don't know how many trips we made to Dudley Mountain, but several of you know where Dudley Mountain is. If you go to Gatlinburg and stand with your back to Gatlinburg Pittman High School and look straight across 321, that's Dudley Mountain. My Uncle Wiley. This is about Wiley and Will. Uncle Wiley was my favorite uncle on my daddy's side. Had a fantastic sense of humor, and he was also very wise. He loved to hike to Dudley Mountain because that's where he was born. We'd pack a lunch of sausage biscuits and start out early in the morn. I looked forward to these mountain treks. He would talk along the way. I listened to him closely, trying to remember what he had to say. He knew all the birds and flowers and called them all by name, just like old friends as closer to them he came. He showed me the rocks from the chimney that he said first warmed his little butt, and a beautiful yellow trillium blooming in Aunt Margaret's old wash tub. He spoke a lot about his best friend, Will. Best friend he ever had, he said. Will grew up with him there on the mountain and followed him wherever he went. Will went with him in World War II to Germany, Belgium, and France, landed with him at Normandy Beach and to the Bulge, where fog rolled in by chance. Will was with him when his daughter was born, and 8 days later when her mother died. The love of his life, Aunt Kate was, and Will, as always, was close by his side. When Uncle Wiley had to go back to the war, Will went with him just the same. He's always been my very best friend. Will Power is his name. I hope you know him too. We all need him as a friend. He'll stick with you like he has with me right to the very end. Sometimes you have to stand up straight, push your troubles to the side, flex your muscles and soften your heart. Will was holding Wiley's hand when he died. I love that old man. He told me lots of stories, and I can't remember them all, but I knew he had been in the war, and I knew he had been to Germany and France and Belgium and all those places, and he told me stories, but he never told me anything bad. He never mentioned anything bad. He landed at Normandy Beach, and he said, this is the story he told me about that. He said that they were landing, and he was in one of the big boats, that we've all seen on TV. And he said he looked over, and there was a guy he knew in another boat, and he said, I yelled out, "Hey there, king boy." He was a king from here in the county. I was just dumb. I didn't know to ask him all the questions that I now wish I had answers for, but I did ask him one time. I said, "Uncle Wiley, you were in Germany?" And he said, "Yeah, I was in Germany." And I said, "Did you see any of the concentration camps?" And he stopped. We were walking up Dudley Mountain, and he just stopped in his tracks, and I saw a shiver go over his whole body, and he said, "Did I see him? Oh, Bobbie, I helped bring those poor souls out of there." He said, "I can still smell the stench." And I was just so dumb, I didn't know to ask him questions. Now that's that side of the family, and they were all wonderful. But I had another grandpa, and he was a good old guy too, but he wasn't like this family. This one, he lived about 3 miles from the old mill here in Pigeon Forge, and he made a little brew back up in the hollow behind his house. The neighbors, even though he had lived there forever, the neighbors always called him Mr. Stinnett. Nobody ever called him Arthur. He was always Mr. Stinnett. Many stories are related. Suppose most of them are true. Like the one about the still, he did make a little brew. And about the raid, nothing was ever found. Should have checked the mailbox or had the postman made his round. The local church asked to visit to pray for his admission to heaven. Nope, pray for me at your place. I'm always in bed by 7. His temper, his badge of courage. World news on the radio. His neighbors kept at a distance, their concerns afraid to show. Inside, smells of pipe tobacco, lit by splinters of rich pine. His chair, his shoes, his dirty overalls. What thoughts were on his mind? Long gun hanging over the front door. Chickens in the backyard. Green apples in the orchard. His life seemed forever hard. Was it because his father wasn't his father at all? Or paying his taxes weighed so heavily? Or because he was short instead of tall? If I could understand his reasons, which of course I never can, might explain why, in spite of himself, I sort of liked the old man. He was a dude. When I was 5 years old, we moved to a farm in Maryville. Spence Davis had a dairy farm down on Wildwood Road, and we moved down there. And that's where I started first grade. And my first grade teacher was Mrs. Kirby. I wish Harry Sandage was here because she was his teacher too. She was a little lady, and she had her hair was salt and pepper gray, and she had it up in a bun, and she always had a little bit of lipstick on her front tooth. We were in class one day, and she said, "Boys and girls, we have a few minutes before the bus comes." Said, "Does anyone have any stories or songs or poems or anything that you'd like to share with us?" And I go, and she said, "Yes, Bobbie, what do you have?" I said, "I have a poem." She said, "Would you like to stand up beside of your desk and say it for us?" And I said, "Yes, I would." And I stood up and I said, "Do not throw up on the floor the crumbs you cannot eat, for many a little hungry child would think it was a treat. Willful waste means woeful want, and I may live to say, oh, how I wish I had the bread I once threw away." And she said, "Oh, Bobbie, that is beautiful. Boys and girls, did you get the meaning of that? That is absolutely beautiful. Who taught you that lovely poem?" And I said, "My daddy." She said, "That is wonderful. That is wonderful. Boys and girls, I hope you all got the meaning of that." And I said, "My daddy taught me another poem." And she said, "Well, would you like to say it too?" And I said, "Yes, I would." And I stood up and I said, "Big red rooster, little red hen, run around together, but they ain't no kin." She didn't comment on that. Grandma and my daddy and Grandpa always had poems. They had poems that had morals and all this. So I guess that's where I got it. But Grandma gave me a book of poems when I was just a child. A Child's Garden of Verses, Robert Louis Stevenson in his own style. I read them over and over, reciting by memory while I swung high in the air under the oak tree from a big limb where my swing hung. It seems like I might have known him somewhere, sometime long ago. He was Robert Louis, and I'm Bobbie Louise, a namesake for all we know. This farm, I loved it. I loved living on the farm, and when we started to move to Seymour when I was 10, I wanted to stay at the farm. I didn't want to go with Mother and Daddy, and Mother got pretty aggravated at me. But anyway, I wrote this about the farm. The name of it is 5 to 9, a play on Dolly's 9 to 5. I loved the farm from 5 to 9. I guess I love it still. The cows and pigs and chickens, the walk to a faraway hill, the shady lane, the fences, the barn, the hay that was newly mown, the lazy river, Dandy the dog, the lane, fields plowed and sown, gentleness so the cows would milk, jewelry in the nose of the bull, hay, grain, and silage all smelled so fresh and good, hot cornbread with real butter, fresh skimmed milk from a gallon jar, homegrown squash and blackberry cobbler, taste and aromas from the farm. A new calf's nose, a pen of pink baby pigs, the chug of a tricycle-shaped John Deere, a different sound of the neighbor's farm awl, fields plowed and fertilized with cow manure. The big oak limbs supported the swing near my sandbox where I planted and baked for my imaginary friend Mrs. Zeeley's and her children delicious sand pies and cakes. The riding spider's verse in the page wire fence along the dirt lane to the barn. I stopped to see if it included my name. Circumstances I heard were very dire. Jeans with a patch from going through a fence, scratches from blackberry briars, a warm cow flock between my bare toes, a martin's nest gourd hung from a bar, a nest of new baby kittens found in the hay in the loft, pink noses and pads, eyes closed, mews, needle toes, and wobbly walks, sights, sounds, memories, what joys they always bring. With a straw toothpick and a cowgirl hat, I'd be 5 to 9 once again. A lot of you know that each year I write a poem for Christmas and send it, and usually I'll have a painting to go with it. But this was the one I wrote in 2006, and it's about the farm. Here it is, almost Christmas, and I never thought I'd be the one around to tell the tale of how things used to be. But it's fallen my lot, and here I go. So please don't ever think this to be a tale of woe. This is a sad story. I was happy. I never felt poor. This is only a story of how I saw Santa and got to watch his reindeer soar. It's a simple enough story. Daddy took his axe and I took my sled. We traveled up and down the farm fence rows till we found the prettiest cedar tree to be had. Daddy made a wooden stand that looked like an X and attached it to the bottom of the tree. Mother got out the colorful glass ornaments and said, "Be careful," as she handed one to me. Then we put the angel on top with her cardboard body and her pretty paper face and her white wings made of angel hair and her dress with a touch of lace. Then we waited and we waited. And finally it was night. Our neighbor and his daughter Suzanne came to take me with them to see the Christmas lights. We drove down the road, past the farmhouses, headed toward Maryville's town. All of a sudden it happened, I didn't even have to turn around. Right there before my eyes, I yelled, "There he goes, look!" Suzanne turned her head every way. Mr. Davis, I saw glanced toward Mr. Davis and saw the smile on his face like he didn't believe what I had to say. But there went Santa, sleigh and all lighted up, beautiful and bright. Reindeer flying so high in the sky, I hated they'd missed it. It was really a sight. I was so excited and could hardly wait to tell Mother and Daddy about what I'd seen. But they didn't seem excited either, not at all like they should have been. No one seemed to get the importance of what had happened here. I had really seen the real Santa and all of his little reindeer. Just because no one else saw it didn't mean it wasn't true. Seemed like they thought I was just telling things, but I saw him and I knew. We told the Davises goodbye. Mother said it was getting cold. I was excited, but I was sad because nobody believed the story I told. We walked into the house, and then there was no doubt, because right there under that beautiful tree was the red Dale Evans cowgirl outfit that I had dreamed Santa would bring to me. Charlie believes my story, and I know Connie did too. I saw the smiles on their faces when I told them like I'm telling you. Now, I've had Christmases with bigger gifts, more than I ever expected or hoped would be, but it's the only time I ever saw the real Santa, and I'm glad the one who saw him was me. That was funny. I did. We were close to the airport, I will say that. But I saw Santa. This is one more. This is a winter thing. Do you have childhood memories that you can close your eyes and see as clearly as if they were happening now, with everything just like it used to be? I remember the biggest snowflakes, biggest I ever saw, the soft sound they made as I listened to them fall, rolling the snow into 3 big balls, stacking them on top of each other, a corncob pipe and charcoal eyes, Daddy's old hat and a scarf from Mother, then catching the snowflakes on the tip of my tongue, placing a broom in the snowman's hand, jumping with excitement at the sight of it all. My life as a child was ever so grand. Then sitting by the warmth of the pot-bellied stove, watching the snowflakes fall, a cup of hot chocolate in my little hands, biggest old snowflakes I ever saw. I still remember that. Still remember seeing that. Most of my stuff is true. Once in a while I have something that's not. And this one may be, I don't know whether it is or not. Anyway, this is a profile of Billy the Kid. I was in my studio one day and painting, and quickly I just saw this goat's face here between me and my canvas. And Charlie came in a few minutes, and I said, Charlie, you know anybody's got a goat? And he said, a goat? And I said, yeah, I need to do a painting of a goat. So he did. He took me and he found somebody that had goats and took me and let me get photos. But anyway, this is the poem I wrote, a profile of Billy the Kid. Billy was ruthless, although he was just a kid. No one wanted to cross him, even the bravest hid. His heart was cold as frozen mutton. His eyes had a yellow fire. Scared of nothing. Picked his teeth with a sawbriar. One could smell the danger when Billy let out a bleat. The strong ran for cover as Billy strolled down the street. Billy seldom acknowledged folk, kept his head low to the ground. His hard soles on the sidewalk made a loathsome sound. Always easily recognized wherever he would be, even though on occasion he disguised himself with a goatee. Mm-hmm. Billy appeared just stinking mean. The truth was not perceived. The elite thought it lack of grooming, but they were just naive, because you see, Billy had some issues, needs to cope, but how can he? The one he thought to be his own dear mother turned out to be just his nanny. This one is also not true. Or maybe it is. This is about Shy Ann. Ann lived in Wyoming, a little cowgirl through and through. Rode a pinto pony, wore a 10-gallon hat, a gift from her grandpa, not new. Ann was such a loner, she never went into town. So shy she was around people, she kept her hat pulled way down. Some might have mistaken her for a mushroom had she not had long braided hair, and mushrooms don't grow in the desert, nor ride a little pinto mare. But Ann wasn't shy around animals. Even the prairie dogs knew her on sight. Her best friend was a shepherd called Dandy, who slept under her bunk at night. Had she known she was famous, her name known throughout the land, she would have removed her hat and looked closely, so her name wouldn't have been misspelled. Cheyenne, Cheyenne. one day some of you may know Tina Gallion. Tina Gallion's little boy, Stephen, was over at our house, and he came in and he said, "There's kittens outside." And we went out to look, and it was a mother possum came right down to our back steps and died. And so I called Charlie, "There's a dead possum out here." And he went out there, and there was one little baby out of the pouch. And he looked, and there were 6 more in the pouch. And he got them out, and he raised them on an eyedropper. Oh. Mama Possum must have been observant. She must have known she was ill, for she walked down our driveway almost to the back door before she fell. Charlie gathered up her babies, 6 in Mama's pouch and 1 out. Faces only a mama could love, and she did, we have no doubt. She was given a proper burial, the babies put in a bed of straw, after Charlie fed them milk from a dropper. Best babysitter I ever saw. He fed them several times each day, and they began to grow. Plump, fat little tummies, silvery hair going to and fro. Weeks went by, and they grew strong. Then he turned them on their own, in a hollow tree near our back door, so they wouldn't be completely alone. But Charlie's a warrior. "I've made a big mistake," he said. "I've turned them on their own too soon. They're used to good food and a bed." I assured him they would be okay. They're wild animals, after all. They feed themselves by their age, and the tree's safe and tall. That night we were ready to enjoy the big beef roast I had prepared, but I found the refrigerator empty, like Mother Cupboard. The cupboard was bare. If they don't make it, it's their own fault. They started out better than we did. On their own, you say. They started out better than we did. Here's a peanut butter sandwich. Now let's pray. Okay, I'm seeing what time is it? Is it almost, it's 5 after? I want to give Robert time we want to enjoy his music. Wait, I'll see what I want to tell you here, and then I will let Robert. We retired in 2004 after Connie died in 2003, our daughter. We moved to Douglas Lake, and then we decided we'd done that long enough, so we retired and just stayed up there. And I enjoyed looking out at the lake and all the critters and the sunsets and everything about being up there. We loved it. I sat on the porch this morning observing the lake and the land and air all crisp and fresh, listening to the band. The percussion was a woodpecker on the other side of the cove, marking time for the other birds as I listened to their song. The crow's voice I recognized, as well as the Canada goose's call. The chip-chip of the redbird, with the choir all around. The mockingbird sang solo, every note in the book. Accurately, he impersonated the others so skillfully that I took a second look. The coo of the mourning dove, a cheerio and a tweety-o-tweet. Together they all blended beautifully, listening to them was such a treat. All happy about another day, joining their friends in song. Praises for the gifts they're given before they must fly along. In this choir there are no sour notes. All is perfect harmony. The beautiful sounds of nature. Fortunately, the one to hear it was me. Oh, I know what else I want to tell you here. This is another thing that happened. I worked at Travelers Insurance Company in Knoxville on Gay Street in Knoxville. And down several blocks down the street, there was beauty supply place that I liked the bath oil that they had down there. So I'd eat a quick lunch and then I'd hurry down the street and carry that jug of bath oil back and try to get back in on my lunch hour. And being on Gay Street, all the parades from every time UT or any kind of a federal holiday or anything, there was always a parade. And the name of this is The Patriot. And on my lunch break one day at work, hurrying to the office so my job I wouldn't shirk, conscious only of time and people all around, suddenly I heard a faraway sound. It's in the distance, I still have time. Drums beat, trumpets, a marching sound. Oh no, the throng of people's going to slow me down. Then I noticed another obstacle, an old man shuffling along. Hurry, old fella, you'll make me late, knowing instantly my thoughts were wrong. Just then I saw the flag high over the head of the crowd. The old gentleman saw it too, and it must have made him proud, because he stepped to the side of the street, removed his hat from his head with his hand, pulled his stooped shoulders up straight, and waited for the band. He snapped to attention as Old Glory went by, and saluted as sharp as either star, his fingers and thumb in perfect line as he must have done in the First World War. My mind took a picture. I had no camera to aim. Tears of emotion welled, and in an instant they came. For years I've remembered the day I witnessed patriotism firsthand. This memory revisits each Independence Day. Brave men preserved this great land. There's one more I want to read, and then I'm going to let Robert come up here, and I'll tell you about my Robert. Growing old is mighty unhandy. At least that's how I found it to be. It comes up on you sudden like a surprise, not what I expected to see. Seems like only a short time ago I could practically run up Mount LeConte. Riding my bike around Cades Cove Loop was nothing more than a jaunt. At the beach in a bikini for a breath of fresh air, not an uncomfortable feeling when someone would stare. Holding down a job and household chores was all that was expected of me. Plenty of time left to garden and sew, with extra time left just to be. Then one day it happened. Came without a warning. Everything had changed when I woke up that morning. I looked in the mirror and my hair was gray. Is that old broad really me? My knees ached and my back was stiff. This isn't what I expected to see. It happened almost overnight. There's still so much I want to do. I sound like old folks I knew back then when everything was different and new. I still have places I haven't seen, so much more I plan to do, books to read and trails to walk, but my doctor's appointment is at 2. Okay. I read poetry to the DAR in Sevierville, and that was on a Monday night. And on Wednesday morning, when I turned my phone on, it was ringing, and it was Carol McMahon from the Historical Society. Several of the people who were part of the DAR were part of the Historical Society, and they asked to publish a book of my paintings and my poems. And this is it. The Lemons Hollow. And this is a picture of me in the swing that my grandpa made for me. And this is the first book that went to the nursing scholarship the first painting that went to the nursing scholarship in memory of our daughter. Connie was a nurse. She loved being a nurse. She said that nurses were caregivers. After she passed away in 2003, Charlie and I decided that since she was our only child, that we would leave what we had to a nursing scholarship in her memory. And that's what we've done. And today, I have my 6th scholarship recipient, Robert Land, and he has stolen my heart. The other 5 were wonderful, and I enjoyed each one, but Robert is special. He's just very special. I don't understand it, why actually, but he is. Come up here, Robert. He is, I'm so proud of him. I'm going to tell you this. He has made the Dean's List in nursing at UT, and that is almost unheard of. He made A's. The dean himself called him, congratulated him. And besides being a tall, handsome, going to be a wonderful nurse, he also plays the fiddle. Play the fiddle, Robert. Play for us, will you? I'm really proud of him. They've all been wonderful. Each one has been wonderful. And, and I will, while he's getting ready, I will tell you this. The first girl her name was Cody, and she was a little girl, 5'2", exactly the same size as our Connie. And, oops, I dropped that. Can you hear me? I don't know what I did. Is that it? Is that the one? Well, they can hear me. I'm not going to say much more anyway. Okay. Cody, I met her at the, after she graduated, I had a little gift that I was going to give to her. And I met her down at the Chop House on Chapman Highway for dinner. And we were eating. And our daughter had, well, I'll back up a little bit. Our daughter had trigeminal neuralgia. That was what was wrong with her and the reason that she passed. Anyway, Cody was telling me all about her, how much she had enjoyed nursing and all about her work that she had done. And she was eating and she just put her fork down and she said, "Mrs. Lovell, I think you should know that the last question on my final exam at UT, the answer to it was trigeminal neuralgia, and I got it right." And that's way more than a coincidence.
I haven't got to play much this semester because I've been locked down with school, but she might regret having me up here. Depending on how this goes. Slow songs, fast songs, I have a couple of each.
Whatever, you just do it.
All right. Let's see. Yes, ma'am. Trying to remember maybe what my other group was. That's an old song.
Great. Let's see what time it's going to be.
I don't know it very well. I haven't played it in a long time. I used to play it back in high school. Most of the songs that I learned were old-time songs that I learned from a little shop over in Newport. A bunch of people just kind of took me under wing and taught me a bunch of it. I originally started out with bluegrass, and then I learned a few Celtic songs from Walter State. A lady taught me a few of those, so just been learning all over the place to where I can pick it up from. I haven't played it. I can play that's a little quicker one too. I have a Celtic song. Hope that was all right. Didn't bust out your eardrums.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
No, you came here to make me cry.